Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real with Dr. Linda Chin. I am her co-host, Audrey Bell Kearney, and this is the great Dr. Chin, and she's going to be talking today about under the weather. Now, not weather with an H, weather with an H. And we're gonna, as always, I'm sure we're gonna find out some amazing insights on what that actually means. So, welcome, Dr. Chin. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing well. How about you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I woke up this morning. It was funny because I had a good weekend. Had a good time with my husband yesterday for Father's Day. Someone said to me this morning, "You're awfully chipper this morning." I said that's because I didn't work. I didn't do any work hardly. I think I might have did two things all weekend. So because I didn't, I had a chance to rest and just chill out for a little while and just enjoy the weekend. So I woke up this morning bright and chipper. So I'm good.
I love it. You got somewhere and sat down, didn't you?
I did. I got
Yeah.
somewhere and sat myself down. Yes, I did. And I needed it. I ain't gonna even. I needed it. Some kind.
Yeah.
And you don't think you need it until you actually stop for a second. Then you realize you really needed that.
That's right. That's
You
right.
really needed it. So I am happy to be here with you. And so listen, I'm gonna turn this show over to you. Go right ahead. Do your thing.
So we're talking about we did right under the influence, under the impression, and we're going to finish up with under the weather, WHETHER. And I had been thinking about it for some time because I've been needing to make excuse me a bunch of important decisions. So this under the weather is about decision making, whether you should do this or whether or not you should do the other thing or whether you
Mm,
should go, right?
mhm.
Make the purchases under the weather. And sometimes decision making can paralyze us, right? We get
Yes.
to the point where because we can't make a decision, we don't make a decision. And that's not always a good thing. We have this saying, all of us do it. All things will work themselves out. It'll work itself out. Well, things don't work themselves out. Inevitably, something happens where someone does something or doesn't, and that's what ends up making the thing work or not work. It's based on kind of what we do and what we don't do. So it's kind of like sitting on the fence. You ever ask people, well, where do you want to go to eat? Well, I don't know where you want to go eat. And they can never make a decision about anything. You can
Every
ask them a
day.
question and they will not they will not make a decision and ask you a question. And it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
It can be frustrating until you're in that position and I'm trying to figure out, well, should I do this or should I not do this? And oftentimes, I found myself being stifled into doing nothing. So I said, I said, I've got to come up with a decision making process because there are times when it's not going to work for you not to make a decision,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I
I want to share this real quick. So my husband and I, we were at a networking event at a pizza parlor, and now I'm hosting, so I'm all running around and everything. So I said to him, "What are you going to eat?" He said, "Well, I don't know. What are you going to eat?" And I said, well, "Just order, a pizza or something." So he said, "Okay." So I'm running around the room, and I look over, and he's eating a piece of the baby's pizza, my daughter's chicken, and I was like, "What happened to you ordering the pizza?" He goes, "I ain't know what you wanted to order." Just order the pizza, man. So he wound up eating one piece of chicken here, and it was crazy. But I get it. People, and we go through this every day, Dr. Chin. What's for dinner? If I don't tell us what's for dinner, is normally, well, when you get home, we'll just figure it out. Because otherwise, nothing happens. Nothing
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
Yes. And so we have to really, whether some people already have a decision making process and they don't realize it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some people just don't, and they just do things on the fly. And oftentimes, when you have people who do things on the fly, a lot of times those are followers and not leaders, right? A
Mm-hmm.
follower loves to do everything sporadically. Oh yeah, I'll go here. Oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll do this, and it's difficult for them to make a decision. And you can't really be a good leader if you don't know how to make a decision, right? If you won't make a decision. So one of the things that I always say is don't be anxious because we know that this is a faith-based podcast, right? I like to keep it real, but it's still based on my faith in the Lord Jesus and in His Word, in the Bible. But it's to calm down. Sometimes you do have to make a decision. decision like that. But when you have time to make a decision, the best thing to do is to calm down and get rid of your anxiety. Get rid of our anxiety, right? To pray. So that means to just pray. Sit there for a minute and think. And I find that thinking and praying go hand in hand for me, because I start thinking, then I find myself talking to God. Then and I find something downloading now, and I'm like, okay, that's you talking back to me, giving me some ideas, giving me a response, giving me an answer. But always pray and get rid of your anxiety. When you're under the weather, whether or not to do something or go someplace, just calm down, pray, and wait for your decision. But I do know that I've learned the hard way not to make decisions out of feeling obligated. I don't like feeling obligated. Well, they came to my birthday party, so I feel obligated to go. No, I don't feel like driving across town in the rain on a set. So I don't. Right. I decide
Right.
whether or not I'm going to go, but not based on obligation. And you need wisdom. We need wisdom when you're under the weather. You've got to know the best decision is an informed decision. And if you lack wisdom, then ask God. You know, people sometimes will say to you, so the Bible says you can ask God, right, who gives generously and upbraid if not, or he doesn't find fault in you asking him for wisdom. Whereas sometimes people will say, now that's a dumb question. Oh, well, why would you ask that? Well, common sense will tell you, see, God doesn't do that. He says,
Mhm.
go ahead and ask me, and I won't find fault with you asking me for wisdom. So that means you kind of have to sit and ponder and take your time and think about things and think about the outcome. And we make decisions every day. We make decisions every day, all day, whether we realize it or not. You also want to define the issue, because sometimes what we think is part of the issue is not even an issue, or it's not the issue, or it doesn't need to be a factor in our decision making,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Some things just don't need to be a factor. I know I used to fret over, oh, what am I going to wear? Like I would be, what am I going to wear? And I had this wonderful, wonderful friend. She's so organized. She's so organized. When we were in college, she would know what she was going to wear the next day. She would prepare it, iron it, put it up together. And she may still do this. I don't know. But I used to admire that. Me, I wake up in the morning, I decide what I'm going to put on in the morning. Right.
Yep.
Right. So that
Yes.
I don't make that an issue for myself.
Right.
Um, Another thing, as I say, is seek counsel, right? Without counsel, your plans can fail. Seek wise counsel. If you don't know something about something, ask somebody who does know something about it, or maybe they know somebody. Um, I don't fault people when you know if I don't know something about something, I'm not going to say, well, you ought to know that. Well, not necessarily, because that's why I'm a Bible teacher, because a lot of people don't know their Bible, right? You ought to know your history. You ought to know your math. You ought to know your, no, well, not everybody does, and not everybody will. So under this weather, we've got to learn how to make decisions. So you pray, right? You got to define the issues. Once you've got the issues and know all the options, and you can make who is a wise counselor in that area, and you got to trust in your decision. This is another thing I would do after I made my decision, and before the counsel even in. I wonder if I should have said that. Oh, I wonder if I should have done that. Oh, I wonder what I missed if what I'm saying? Just all this anxiety, and anxiety comes from agitating. Like a wash machine goes back and forth. That's what anxiety is. It's
Yeah.
like the agitator in the wash machine. It's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we don't know how to just calm down and relax. And my husband's always said, once you've made a decision, go with it. He said, we've learned that in the
Yeah.
military. If you've made a decision, go with the decision and follow it through.
Yeah. I had an epiphany this morning. No, not this one. It was yesterday morning. I was thinking about. I'm always thinking about my business, even though I didn't do business. I'm always thinking about it. And one of the things I had been kind of struggling with was because I got so much on my plate. Like I'm running the chamber, I got my own business, I got 3 tech projects that I'm trying to roll out all at the same time. And something said, Audrey, you're not going to be able to do any of those things well if you don't make a decision to focus on just a couple, not 5, because it was literally 5 things.
Mm,
Like if you try to focus on all 5 of those things, it's not gonna work. And I
mm,
was beating myself up like, what happens? I mean, what would happen if I don't do this one? So I got to the point and I was like, yeah, whatever's gonna happen, gonna happen. I'm not doing all that stuff. And when I got to that decision, I think that made my weekend even better because I
yeah.
had to make a decision about what I wanted to do. And then I wound up having a great weekend. Woke up this morning just chipper, like the person said to me, "You're so chipper this morning." I was like, that's because I realized I had to let go of some of all of that stuff because nothing was going to get done well with me trying to learn not not small things. I got 2 companies and 5 major tech projects.
Mhm.
That was that wasn't gonna work right. And I was like, I'm just gonna have to pause them. We can work. I'm gonna work on this and this, and that's why I left it. And I'll come back to the rest of that stuff later. So decisions are, but quiet time, Dr. Chin,
Mhm.
just being still and being quiet. You
Mhm.
know, the Bible says, "Be still and know." That
Mhm.
is not just some kind of cliche that you just say. It is the truth.
It's right. It matters. It matters.
Yeah.
Um, I used to work for this organization. Everybody know if I said it, everybody would know who it is. But one of the things that they would require and give us time to do every week was think time. You couldn't
Mm.
schedule any meetings during that time. You couldn't. They didn't expect any emails to go out at that time. They weren't answering any emails. This is your time to just sit and think. So whatever time that you chose during the week, that was your time to sit and think, and no one really could expect anything from you. And I found that after those moments, as you said, I was most productive. And so, as you said, as Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God, He will download stuff, right, unto you, and ideas will come. A lot of people take credit for it, but that's between you and God, right? But He'll download answers and strategies and ideas and options. God gives us options, and I've heard people say, well, no, if it's either this or that. God's not, and I know He's not schizophrenic, bipolar. I know that, but God does give options, right? And I thought about it, and I remember the Bible story where David took the first census, right, to numbered and counted the people when he wasn't supposed to, and God gave him like 3 options of which one of these consequences are you going to do? Are you going to do 3 days of famine? Are you going to do it a day of famine? Or your enemy's going to be fighting you in your rest time? He gave him options, so He will give you options as to what your decision can be. You can do this or you can do that, and that's what I love about God. And people still talk about abortions and pro-life and pro-choice. And God says, I give you this day. You choose. He's telling you what to choose, but He's still going to give you options. He's still
Mm.
giving us options. So the decision making really needs to be a process. And I always say solid decisions from me is based on the will of God. Okay, God, what are you going to have me to do? And if I make a mistake, then I can adjust accordingly. It's not a big deal. Right. And if I make a mistake that's detrimental, then I'm well, then that wasn't for me to do. I'm not dead. No one died. It's not catastrophic and things will be okay. But I trust in the decisions. I trust in God. Once I have my peace, I'm all right with it. Right. I'm okay with it. And I'd always say that, okay, what is your will? How do you determine His will? Well, God speaks to us by His Spirit and by His written word. He speaks to us. We'll say something told me. Well, I know that that's God. I know that's the Spirit of God. And I don't care who says, I need to stop saying God told me. I'm gonna when I know when God said for me to do something, I know what God told me to do, and that's what I will do. Right. So solid decision making, you really want to discern the will of God and then go for it. And know that He will save you from yourself. God will He will save you from yourself. So once He reveals His will, right, through the Holy Spirit or through His word, then go for it. Right? That's what I say. I say go for it. So it includes, right, making a decision is an act of your will, right? Because we said this before. To decide or to make a decision means that you have cut off all other options, right? You've cut them all the other options you've cut out, and now you know, and that's how you have decided. And so it involves, right? Your decisions are influenced by our mind and or our emotions sometimes, right? The decisions actually reflect what's coming from our heart. But we decide based on our thinking and based on our emotions. That's how we decide. That's how marketers know how to get you to buy something.
True
Right?
that.
True that.
That
That's
is
how
true.
marketers, they know. They know you get these emotions going on, or you get these thoughts going on, and so you make your decision. You know whether or not you're going to do something, whether or not you're going to vacation in here, if you're going to push that send button, push that purchase button. But let me say this. So the word of God tells us to let his word be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. And we're always looking for a confirmation, a confirmation. Well, I'm going to put this out there. Because of artificial intelligence, every time you get a second word doesn't mean that's God confirming it. Because if you don't turn the microphone off on your phone, if you're having conversations, do not think it's a coincidence that stuff is popping up on your Facebook page, that stuff is ads are popping up in your email. Those are not coincidences. So be careful that your confirmation is not coming from artificial intelligence. You
Dr.
feel me?
Chinn, listen, Dr. Chinn, I gotta tell you this because this is funny. And it was funny because I was thinking it. Now, this is the funny thing. I was thinking about AI, right? But I wasn't gonna say anything. But
I
since
see.
you brought it up, so I got a friend. She called me last week and she said she said she was thinking about something. I forgot what it was. But she was thinking it. She didn't say she looked. I said, well, did you look it up? She said, well, yeah, I didn't look it up. She said, I was thinking about it. And she said, she said when she turned her computer on, it popped up. So she started to freak out. So she started to clean up everything around the computer. She's like, she said, because I was thinking it. She said it happened again. I'm really tempted to throw the computer completely out the window. It was hilarious. She said, because I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything out loud. She said, I was thinking it. I said, are you saying that like the Google was reading your mind? She said, that's what I felt like. She said, I felt like Google was reading my mind. She literally said she was going to throw the computer away. It was so funny. But the funny thing about that's not funny is that that's where we're going. So right now, you know, when you go online and you search for something and you keep seeing that ad pop up over and over again, well, they figured out how to do that. That's called retargeting. But there are scientists right now that are planting, they have invented a chip to put in your head. Now, I don't know about y'all, but nobody put nothing in my head.
Right.
Put the chip in your head so your thoughts can go right into the computer and search for what you're looking for without you saying the word. It's happening. They already have it. Nobody's putting, every time I think about stuff like that, Dr. Chinn, like putting chips in me, I always think of the mark of the beast. I'm like, you ain't putting nothing on me.
Right.
Put no, you ain't putting no barcode. Ain't none of that going on. You don't have to force me to do that stuff. So it's happening right now. So it's funny you say that because she literally said, I'm gonna throw this computer right out the window because I think it's reading my thoughts. And I thought that was so funny, but she said she was thinking things and they just kept popping up on the computer. So it sounds crazy, but listen, we never know. We never know.
No, I don't believe they can read my thoughts, right? You know, some people say the devil can read your, he literally can read your thoughts. No, he cannot. No, he cannot. He can suggest things, right, on the battlefield of our mind when we act out on those things, right? And I always say, and I got this from Dr. Tony Evans, it's like game footage. If the Patriots are playing Green Bay and they figure out their next move and how they play, it's because they've watched the game footage. It's not because they're reading their minds, right? They've read their past plays. They know how they strategize defensively and so forth. And so that's what, to get back to that whole artificial intelligence thing, that's why I said we got to be very, very careful as believers in Christ. We've got to know that the enemy has help me, Holy Ghost, you know what the word I'm trying to use, a counterfeit for everything that we do and everything that God has for us. That's why it's important to stay close to God. That's why when you look at on liquor stores, they call them spirit shops, right? You get to drink a little too much and go a little too far, and you get to act out in a whole nother, You get to show it out in a whole other way. But that ain't the Holy Spirit acting out you, right? So that's I wanted to say that your decision making process, where the word says, "Let His word be established in 2 or 3 witnesses." Be mindful that artificial intelligence will make you think that God has confirmed your word. So you have to have, for me, I have to have a biblical way to have a decision making process. So to decide whether or not I'm going to do something. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. And I
Yeah.
can be called religious. I don't care what people call me. It doesn't matter what people think about me. I know that what I'm saying has worked for my life when I depend on God, right? And He says, right, I have to ask myself when I'm making a decision, is this decision simply going to please me in my flesh, my body, my will, my emotions, my soulish realm, my feelings? Or is this going to be pleasing to God? Is this going to displease Him? Is this going to cause a rift in my marriage? Is this going to cause some stress, unnecessary stress in my household? Right? Is this going to cause some unhealthy division? Because not all division is unhealthy. So sometimes you have to cause division in order to conquer the enemy. Sometimes you need to cause division in order to separate, right, the wheat from the chaff, the good from the bad, the evil from the good, and so forth. So, you've got to make a decision. Is this going to cause a problem in my relationship unnecessarily? I don't want to do that. So those are some ways when you're under the weather that we've got to filter things out to help us narrow in on a decision and realize that God does give us options. He does give us options. And He says in Psalm, one of my favorite scriptures, Psalm 32:8, I say it every day of my life: God, instruct me, teach me today in the way that I should go, guide me with your eye. Just give me guidance. And we may not realize it, but our footsteps are ordered. My footsteps are ordered. We can plan our own way, but my footsteps are ordered. And I thought about, someone asked me, can the devil bless you? Can the devil bless you? Um, and my answer was, I don't know if he can, but I know he doesn't. Like, that's, if he come to kill, steal, and destroy, where's the blessing in any of that?
Right.
And some people will attribute their good fortune, their success, to Allah, Buddha, karma, the universe. That's your choice. That's totally your choice. I choose God. That's my personal belief. But scripture does say this, right? Because we know when you think about Ishmael, um, I believe from descendants on, follow the Muslim faith, right? But God said, I'm going to bless Ishmael. When Abraham asked God to bless Ishmael, He said, I am going to bless him. My covenant is going to be with Isaac, but I'm going to bless Ishmael. So God still blessed him, right? You can accredit it to anybody you want, but the blessing came from God. So that's what I give my glory to. But God will shine on those things that glorify Him. Ask yourself, is this going to bring glory to myself? Am I going to try to take all the credit? Is this going to reflect the character? Make your decision based on whether it's the type of character that you want to reflect. Are you always taking credit for something, and kind of pretending like you're giving God glory? Your character is coming through, right? When He says, I'll instruct you and teach you in the way that I should go, I'll guide you with my eye, I lean on that, right? I follow that. I go to my husband sometimes. What do you think I should do about this? That's my wise counsel. I have certain friends and ask their opinions on something. My sister's very wise. My baby sister, she's very, very wise. And I'll ask her about a lot of things, because she knows a lot about a lot of things, and she can back it up with the research. It's not always just her opinion, right? She backs it up with facts and with research. I love that about her. I see you thinking.
That's nice.
Yeah.
No, that's nice. I I like what you said. You said she's very wise, and I love that about her. I think that's beautiful, because not a
Yeah.
lot of people say that. That's beautiful.
Intelligence is not the same as wisdom. Intelligence is not
Mm,
the same as wisdom. It's not the same as education. You can be very educated and have no wisdom. You can be very educated and not really be intelligent. You can be intelligent and not have any education, right? So
yep.
we mix all that stuff up. But solid decisions to me is knowing what the will of God is. And he said there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death. It may seem right to you. It may seem okay to you to eat fried chicken every day, right? Because it tastes good and, chicken is healthy. And that may seem good. But I guarantee you, them cholesterol levels going up,
Right.
right? Those cholesterol levels are going up. But I just believe that if you're given a good idea, run it by God and make sure it's a God idea. Because I've had so
Mm-hmm.
many good ideas that have worn me out. People have sucked the life out of me, expect me to keep doing it. I'm like, no. And I used to let people do it. I'm like, and I had to decide that was a good idea. And maybe it was a God idea then, but maybe this year that's not for me to do.
Yeah. Dr. Chen, I've learned that too. I've learned, excuse me, and I just recently had this conversation with some of the women of the chamber, that all of the ideas that God gives me, He gives me amazing ideas. I realized probably around March that they weren't all for me to do. They were for me to
Yes.
actually pass on to other people.
Love it.
And I thought He was giving them to me. Like, you got to go do this because He gave it to me. But after like really seeking his word, like what am I supposed to do with this? Like, I'm only one person. It wasn't for me. And I was like, oh crap, that wasn't even for me. That was for me to pass on to somebody else. And it's probably millions of ideas, $1 million ideas, but they weren't for me. And it took me a long time to figure that out. A long time to figure out that the idea He gave you for the shoes weren't for you to go out and do the shoes. That wasn't for
I
you.
love it.
Somebody else, and somebody came along and started talking to me about shoes. I'm like, wait a minute. So what would happen is He would give me these amazing ideas, and then I would go dead into the research on them. And then I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? And then I would just kind of drop it because I'm like, I'm overwhelmed, only to find out that they weren't even for me. They were for other people. So I'm
Mm.
supposed to pass those ideas on to other people.
I love that. So
Yeah.
that's seed sowing, right? That's sowing a seed. You'll
Mm,
get a return back on that. That's how
mm,
God works. That's sowing a seed. When you drop wisdom on somebody, sowing seed is not just about cutting a check. It's not just about that. When you pray for somebody, you're sowing a seed, right? When you show justice and kindness and mercy, right? Micah 6:8, that's what He requires of us, to love justice, right? Be kind, walk in humility. That's what He has shown us, which is the right thing to do, which is the good thing to do. You're sowing a seed in someone else's life that may generate income for them. You're sharing that idea may be their confirming word. That may be
mm.
confirmation that they were looking for to go ahead with that idea. Or it could be an answer to their prayer. Oh my goodness, I could tell you some stories. I prayed a prayer that I've been praying for a long time. And I was talking about it to God the other day, and I'm like, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated because I'm looking for an answer for this. But let me tell you how the answer came. The answer to my prayer came through someone else's tragedy. I wasn't
Mm,
looking for it there. You get what I'm
mm,
saying? But I know
mm-hmm.
that I knew that I knew that's what He would have me to be an answer to someone else's prayer. We're here to help other people too,
Yeah.
right? To love mercy and to be kind to other people, to be kind. So that whole under the weather, whether or not you should do something, there are questions that we need to ask ourselves to determine whether or not we should give somebody something. Should I give somebody money? When I was cutting checks for high school and college graduations, I'm like, well, how much should I give? And you give high school different amount than I give college. What is their major in college? The books may cost more. They may
Mhm.
have to fly. You think about those things.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just you be discreet in your giving, whether it's your time, your talent, whatever it is. It can seem like because it's the person. It's another thing where sometimes we make unhealthy decisions is based on whether or not we like the person.
Yeah.
Honey, listen, it doesn't matter whether
Yeah.
or not you like the person. I had an experience where I was led. I heard God say, give this so something to so and so. And this woman was talking about me like a doll, talking about me to the point where I could hear her talking about me, right? And I said, I know. I said, I know you ain't telling me, God, to give her that. I know you're not telling me. Ooh, I'm not
Right.
lying, right?
And I ain't giving that. I'm not giving her anything.
Yeah. So it wasn't about whether or not I got along with her or whether or not she talked about me. It was about my obedience. Because what ended up
Mm,
happening when I obeyed, the person broke down, right?
mm,
They just broke down and wept in tears. Now I can't say what they were thinking. All I could imagine is what if that was me talking about somebody else, and then they turn around and give me something. I'd have felt very humbled, right? I'd
hmm.
have felt convicted,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So decisions, our decisions really need to be sound and wise decisions. They need to be God glorifying. They need to reflect the character of God Himself. Um, and I think, I went to this wonderful training last week. It was so good. It was so good. And we just learned so many things. And it was regarding ministry, but I learned some things that could apply to my own life, right? Outside of ministry, right? Um,
Hmm.
and so I made a decision when I wrote those notes down. I said, I'm going to apply this to this area of my life. I'm going to apply this to that area. And again, if you lack wisdom, just ask God, right? Just ask God for the wisdom. I ask Him for that every day, and be patient,
Yep.
because sometimes our decisions, we don't see the results right away.
Yep. That's true. I want you to talk about confusion and making decisions, because a lot of times people don't make decisions because they are just confused and don't know how to move past the confusion so that they can make the decisions. And even when you talk to, I had a so every other Monday we do an 8 o'clock mastermind call, virtually, and there was a woman in the call, and I know she's stuck because she says she's stuck, but and I was telling her, I think you should do this, this, and this. But you can see that she's still very confused, but she's not embracing what I'm saying. What do you say to that person that's confused, but and you're trying to give them good advice, but they're still looking at where they are. They still want to do things the way they used to do it. They're confused, and now they can't make a decision.
So there's several things that I heard there. If they still want to do things the way they are, that's not confusion. They've made a
Mm,
decision that they want to do what they want to do. And once
mm,
people decide that they are going to do what they want to do, I stop talking, because you've
yeah.
already decided. Now I'm casting my pearls before pigs. I'm not going to
Mm,
drop my pearls of wisdom for you to step on them. I'm going to move on. I'll respect your decision, respect it to the utmost. And then there's times when people are not confused, they just don't understand.
mm-hmm,
They just don't
mm,
understand. And so sometimes we have to break things down in bite sized pieces, to where they can understand. Because sometimes people will say, I'm confused, when really what they mean is, I don't understand. You get what I'm saying?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if you've got a problem or you're not good in geometry or algebra. I was better in geometry than I was in algebra. I wasn't confused about algebra. I just didn't understand it. So when I got someone to tutor me to break it down to a level where I could understand, I aced it. Now, if a person is confused, then I would outright ask myself or ask the person, where is your confusion lying is? Because confusion means you've got wires crossed and everything's jumbled up. It means there's no order.
Mm-hmm.
God is not the author of confusion, the Bible says, right? He's not the author
Mm.
of that. So when you're confused and everything is jumbled up, you really need to stop. Don't slow down, just stop.
Yep.
Just stop right there. And what is confusing you? If you understand it to this point and then don't get any further than that point, what is the part that is confusing you? And so that's when a person even needs to take time to think, right? To think. I
Mhm.
understand it to this point. I understand that, but this part is confusing me. And that sometimes comes from having preconceived notions. Confusions can
Mm.
be birthed out of preconceived notions, out of something that you learn that is faulty information. I always thought this. Well, I was taught that. Well, I believed that this. And so
Yeah.
now you're telling me this. So now I'm confused. Well, maybe what you thought and maybe what you were taught were incorrect,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say stop, just stop.
Yeah, I think that was her issue. I think the way she was taught, and I said that, I was like, we've been taught to do things a certain way, and that's the way we want to do it. But you can't do things as way you used to do them because it's not working. And I'm telling you, it doesn't work because I've tried it, it doesn't work. And so I kept trying to iterate that part, only for her to come back after I said all of this stuff to say the exact same thing I just said did not work. The exact same thing. And I'm like, I just said that doesn't work. And it doesn't work. But she came back and said the exact same thing. So you're right, it's the way. And the other thing too is when sometimes when people are taught some things, it's so ingrained. It's like when you drive
Ooh-wee.
and you don't know streets. And my husband is good for this. It's funny because I'll say, what exit was it? He goes, I said, what exit is your job? This is what I asked him one day, right? He goes, I, he didn't know the exit number. And I said to him, but you drive that way every day. You don't know the exit because he's just so used to doing the same thing every day. It's just a routine for him. He knows no numbers. He can give me no landmarks. It's just like, I just know how to get there. And I think that's what a lot of people are. That's what they are. Like they've been taught this is the way you do it. And this is the way I've done it the last 25. You can't do things like that. So you're right about that. People have been taught a certain way, it sticks with them. They refuse to change, and then they wonder why they're not progressing because you refuse to change. You refuse to see things differently. And for me, I was telling her that like you gotta. Nobody's paying attention to that. I'm telling you, they not. It's too many people doing too many things. They're not paying attention to what you're saying. They're not. And she heard me and then she turned around and said the same thing. And I was like, I'm scratching my head like, okay. So I just
Yeah.
left it alone. Like I just left it alone. At that point, it was like, I don't know what else to say. So I won't say anything.
You
I
know,
just keep
that's
my mouth
interesting
shut.
what you said about your husband not knowing the exit, because sometimes we do things so routinely that we don't. I remember someone asking me what exit to get off to come to where I live, and they kept saying exit 44, right? Exit 44. And I kept saying, yeah, that wasn't the exit, right? That wasn't the exit. And so because, I never felt like I needed to know the exit until somebody asked me, and then I gave them the wrong information. But that also comes with observation. We can do things
Mhm.
so routinely that we don't observe, and that's one of the things that I teach in, and I've learned from the class 7 laws of the learner, where you can walk up the stairs from one level of your house to another, and you have no idea how many steps you took. You have
That's
no
right.
idea whether it's 14, 13, or 15 because you haven't observed, right? Or you can person can say, well, all I know is that I turn, I drive 5 miles and then I turn right. Well, what's the name of the street? I don't know. All I know is I drive 5 miles, right? And so, but when we do things routinely, and you pointed out something key important, when you do things routinely and you desire to grow, eventually your routine is not going to work. It's not going to work. If you're growing in on your job, in your skill, in your skill sets, if you're growing in an area that you are trying to master, eventually you are going to have to ask somebody else for help. Make the decision that you will humble yourself and ask somebody, because if we knew it all, we'd be making all the money. If we knew it all, we wouldn't need help. If we knew it all, then we wouldn't need each other. We're interdependent. It's okay to be independent on some things, but we were created to be interdependent, like the interstates, not intrastate. You get from one state to the next because it's an interstate. They
Yeah.
connect to get you from one place to another. But this whole thing with under the weather and trying to make decisions requires that we have a process. And sometimes we're going to
Mhm.
have to make some decisions that are painful, right? What about those painful decisions? Those ones I mean the ones where you have to decide whether someone's going to live or die, right? The
Right.
decisions of whether or not you're going to still stick with this joker because you've been with him for 12 years and he even promised you to marry him after 3 years. Well, now we done bought a house together. We done got a cow and all of this. But do you leave or do you go? Do you stay or do you go? Those are some painful
Yeah.
decisions. right? But every decision comes with a consequence. And it may hurt for, I know I'm talking to somebody now. It may
Yes,
hurt
you
for a
are.
minute, but at the end of the day, is your decision going to reflect the character of God and who you are? Are you going to love yourself enough? That's our next class, healthy self love, right?
Mm,
July 11, 12, 13. Are you going to love yourself enough to make the decisions that will be painful? What is your process by which you make a decision? Or we just doing stuff on the fly? That's not a good way to live.
yeah,
It's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to teach our children.
yeah.
It's not a good way to mentor somebody.
Yeah. And people are watching you. They're watching what you say. They watching what you do. They watch how you make decisions. I
Woo.
was in a meeting with someone and it was interesting because I know that they were watching everything. It was a group of us, but I know that that person that we were trying to like impress was watching everything we did, everything we said, every decision we made. And at the end of the conversation, they were utterly impressed. And they
Yeah.
was like, I'm just really impressed. But I knew like everything I did in that meeting, they were watching it. So I was
Mhm.
very careful. I was making sure I said the right things. I did the right things. I presented the right way. But everybody else on the team did the exact same thing
Mhm.
without us rehearsing it or anything, but just knowing that they're watching us
Mhm.
and they're watching what kind of businesswomen we are. And
Mhm.
they're watching what kind of decision makers we are because people are watching you whether you believe that or not,
Ooh-wee.
whether they say anything to you or not,
Yeah.
always watching.
Yes. And so you said something else that was important. So they probably weren't only watching you as individuals, they were also watching how you function as a unit, how you
Mm,
function as a team, because you can pick up when one person on the team doesn't like the other. You can pick up when their chemistry does not work. So yes, chemistry is real. Chemistry it does matter. It does matter, right?
yeah. Yes.
It does matter when you are collaborating. And I've learned so much through this decision making process because you have to decide, right? If I want something, I'm trying to put something together, but I can't afford what I want, but I need something in the interim, then you have to decide which one am I going to take? Which one am I going to do? How do you get to the point where you're going to decide what purchase you're going to make when you can't afford what you really think you need and something to get you over until you can afford? I'm talking to somebody again. I know it in my gut. Until you can afford to get what you know that you need, right? There are ways. As my husband says, he said this ever since I've known him. Why buy new when used will do, right? Sometimes we
That's a good one. That's the truth, though.
Yeah, you got some of us will decide to go and spend more money on something because we're too proud to go to a secondhand store or a thrift store or go. You understand?
Yes.
Um, so how do you decide when you're under the weather? How are you going to get out from under that?
Yeah.
How are you going to make your decision and make sure that it's healthy for you and the right decision and the one that doesn't cause a rift unnecessarily and division unnecessarily in your life? That's what it
Doc,
means to be under the weather.
Dr. Chin, I have a friend, she's an attorney. And she used to go to the thrift store every Wednesday because on Wednesday stuff was 25 cents. Now, and she was dating this guy, and she would go on, she would go to the thrift store, buy all of these things and recreate them. He didn't understand that. So he said to her, I make money. Now she was an attorney, she made money too, but he didn't
Hmm.
understand for her it was therapy. It was
Hmm.
therapeutic for her to go to because she didn't want to go buy brand new stuff to cut up and remake and do over.
Right,
So she would
right.
go to the thrift store. He took it as her saying she couldn't afford it. It was hilarious. So when she told me that, I was dying laughing, but it was only because he did. And that's totally off subject, y'all. But I just had to say that because it brought back the memory of her. And she made this really cute skirt. She went and bought all of these jeans and she cut them all up and made this really cute skirt.
Yeah.
But that's what she used to do. Like she would do that and just make these really cute things. And he thought she didn't have any money. So he said to her, I have money
Yeah.
because he was an
He was
engineer.
insulted.
And she's like, I got money too. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the therapy for her going through the store, finding the things, coming out with a whole bag of stuff. You just spent $12, and then come back being able to remake things. So I thought that was really funny, like as you were talking, because it came back up when you were talking about the second hand would do, yeah, it will, and it will do for her, and that was therapeutic for her. So I
Yes,
thought that was funny.
yes. She made a decision where she's going to put her money.
That's right,
Uh,
she did. She knows she was gonna cut it up, so why cut up good money? Why cut up good money? I need to ask her, do she remember that? Because that was really funny.
can she make you a skirt? But I wanted to. I thought about this too. Something we talked about, but I wanted to close with this today. That if there's anybody, as I get more feedback and people listening and people watching the podcast, if you feel like this is a place where you want to advertise your business or you want to advertise your ministry, you've got, it doesn't matter whether you sell purses, whether you bake pies, it doesn't matter if you've got a small store someplace. What if there's something that you want to advertise on Keeping It Real with Dr. Chinn, email me at lindachin.com, right? Oh, you can email me at linda.chin@gmail.com. Linda.chin, Chinn, at gmail.com. And we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the different packages. We come on every other week, that's twice a month, and we can advertise your business, your ministry, or even your event if it's a one-time event. Reach out to us if you want to advertise. Second thing, I wanted to invite some of the women, if you want to come to a good Bible study. We have Christian Women in Training Network, meets once a month on the first Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30. Reach out to us at CWIT2010 at att.net. That's CWIT2010 at att.net. I'm looking forward to seeing some of you all. Got some other
Dr.
stuff I
Jen,
want to share too.
I'm so proud of you by putting it out there, by advertising on your show and sponsoring your show, because I do my show 4 days a week and I hardly ever remember to do that.
Mm.
4 days a week I do the show live and I hardly ever remember it. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've ever said sponsor this show. I think I said something like, if you like the show, click the link in the description.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud that you have put it out there for people to be able to sponsor this show, because it's a great show and it reaches a lot of people. And a lot of times we forget that we offer people the opportunity for exposure on these shows that we do. And yes, it looks like, and here now, because of the pandemic, this show, your show, is being streamed around the world. It has changed the way people advertise and put their content out there. So I'm really proud of you for thinking about that. When you said that, I'm over here like smiling, like, did she see how hard I'm smiling right now? Because I forget to do that on my own show. So
Thank you.
I'm happy about that.
Well,
I'm
I
happy
learned it
about
from
that.
you.
Listen, let me tell you something. What we do is not easy. Even though Dr. Chinn get up here every other Monday and make it seem like it's easy, she has prepared notes. She has to pray on these things. It's not easy, y'all. And we make it look easy, but it's not. So if you feel like this show is helping you in any kind of way, email her to sponsor the show, because your sponsorship dollars help her keep the show going. And it's needed. Y'all see the wisdom that she the gems that she's dropping every other Monday. It is needed. We are living in some really, 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 really crazy times. I was doing the show this morning. It was just a string of bad news. I was like, I'm not talking about any of that on my show. None of it. Just a string, because we need more positive stuff. And I refuse to put out bad news. I put out a good story because one young lady was gone missing. This young girl was gone missing like since May, and they found her in Morrow County. I was so grateful for that, because she was 16 years old, had left school, taking the final exam, and disappeared. May 26th. Here it is, almost June 26th. They found her. Thank God she was okay. But that's the news I put out. I don't want to put out bad news. So she's giving you
get
wisdom.
enough of that.
Yeah, we get enough of that. But she needs your support. So support the show. Go to linda.chin at gmail.com. Put in the description, advertise, so she knows it's not junk mail, because nobody's answering junk. And I'm just throwing that out there for you, Dr. Chinn. Nobody has time to answer junk. So put advertise in the subject line so she'll know to open it up. If she does not see advertise, she's probably not going to open it. So just know that. All right. Dr. Chinn, as always, always dropping the gems. Always. I appreciate you for doing that. And I thank you. And I'm just, you make me proud. I feel like a proud parent over here.
I'm so
You
grateful.
make me proud. All right. So listen, you guys, if you enjoyed this episode, we got another great one coming back in 2 weeks. So be sure to subscribe to the show. You can go to her website, lindachinnministries.com, to subscribe to all of her shows and to find out about all of the great things she's doing over there. She's doing amazing things. If you need help, if you need prayer, if you need wisdom, if you need guidance, go to her website. Set up your appointment. No, it's not free. Not free. Time is money, money is time, but it is also very valuable. So go get the wisdom you need, because here's the thing, it could save you even more time, money, and heartache later on. So thank you again, Dr. Chinn, for being who you are and dropping wisdom on us as always.
Keep it real, folks. Peace.
Keeping it real with Dr. Linda Chinn. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Same bad time, same bad place. You guys stay safe out there. Until next time, make it a great day. Bye, everybody.